بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عالم الغيب فلا يظهر على غيبه أحدا. The first of our salawat in honor of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The second in honor of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The third with your loudest voices in honor of the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. The discussion concerning the Shia belief of knowledge of the unseen, otherwise translated in the Arabic language as ilm al-ghayb, is one of the most important theological discussions in Islamic thought, and a discussion which requires a thorough analysis, for it is a discussion which affects each and every one of our lives. A discussion from which many a lesson may be learnt, and indeed many an example may be derived, and a discussion with a historical basis and a contemporary significance. Many schools outside of the school of Ahlul Bayt constantly ask the question concerning the Shia belief in the knowledge of the unseen, and the idea that many of these schools, when they study our literature, they find that we ascribe ilm al-ghayb to the Prophet and to the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. On many occasions, on nights such as these, nights of commemoration, you find that the Imam in question seems to have knowledge that this may be his final night on the earth. You find, for example, either the Imam knows that tonight is his final night, or an Imam knows that the drink he's going to drink is the final drink, or an Imam knows that the battle he's going to is the final battle. This, of course, is one of the most important beliefs in the school of Ahlul Bayt, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may grant ilm al-ghayb, knowledge of the unseen, to a certain chosen creation of His. However, there are other Muslims outside of the school of Ahlul Bayt who come forward and state that ilm al-ghayb belongs purely to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that nobody knows the world of the seen and the world of the unseen like Allah. As in when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, عِنْدَهُ مَفَاتِحُ الْغَيْبِ لَا يَعْلَمُهَا إِلَّا هُ. He has knowledge of the unseen, none have access to this except Him. They come forward and say, when the Quran says this, how therefore can you say that the Prophet has ilm al-ghayb, that Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen on a night like the night of the 19th had ilm al-ghayb, that for example Imam al-Hussein on his way to Karbala had ilm al-ghayb, and so on. Therefore, the issue of ilm al-ghayb is an issue of the utmost importance in Islamic theology. And indeed, continuing this in my 16th lecture this month on the misconceptions about Shia Islam, I'd like to analyze the basis of ilm al-ghayb from the Quran, and I'd like to take it in a number of stages. Number one, how important is tafsir of the Quran by the Quran in understanding knowledge of the unseen? Number two, which creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did Allah give knowledge of the unseen to? Number three, can knowledge of the unseen be given to other than a prophet of God? And if it can be, what is the famous science by the name of ilmul manaya wal balaya? The science of the knowledge of trials and tribulations. And number 4, what is the characteristic of a person who Allah gives knowledge of the unseen to? Let's dissect this and dissect this topic in complete depth. The discussion concerning ilm al-ghayb, as we said, is one of the most controversial discussions within the religion of Islam. And as we said, when a person looks within the Holy Quran, you find clearly that there are verses in the Quran which indicate that Allah and Allah alone has knowledge of the unseen. The best way to examine knowledge of the unseen within the Quran was a method employed by Allama Tabatabai, may Allah bless his soul. Allama Tabatabai, in the famous work Tafsir al-Mizan, which is with us until today, Allama Tabatabai, as we all know, used to have a particular presence about him in this world. He used to study the religion of Islam 14 hours a day. Every day throughout the year except Ashura. Every day he would study 14 hours a day. Except on the 10th of Muharram, he said, I dedicate that day to Abu Abdullah. I purely want to focus on him. Allama Tabatabai, amongst his theories of how you do tafsir of the Quran, was a theory which was known as tafsir of the Quran by the Quran. What did he mean? He said the Quran is a clear book. It's a book where all the knowledge is clear for all of you to see. He said therefore every concept in the Quran can be understood within the Quran. But what it's a matter of is bringing all the verses together in order that you understand the concept. He said whenever you see a verse on a particular subject, like ilm al-ghayb, look for every verse in the Quran where Allah uses the words ilm and ghayb. Then bring all of those verses together and you'll understand the meaning of ilm al-ghayb. So if I were to give you an example, he says, look at the subject of shafa'ah. In the Quran he says, there's many verses which have the word shafa'ah. When you look at these verses about intercession, if you only take a couple of them, you'll think that there's no shafa'ah in this dunya. For example, he says, if you look at Surah 74, verse 48, it says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, فَمَا تَنْفَعُهُمْ شَفَاعَةُ الشَّافِعِينَ. The intercession of the intercessors will never avail them. Allama Tabatabai says, if you took that verse alone about shafa'ah, it would give you an indication there's no shafa'ah on the Day of Judgment, there's no intercession. He says, however, what you have to do is you have to look in the whole Quran for the word shafa'ah again. When you look again in the whole Quran, you'll find that in another verse of the Quran, Allah gives an indication, no, there is shafa'ah. For example, Surah 19, verse 87. لا يملكون الشفاعة إلا من اتخذ عند الرحمن أحدا. None has the ability for intercession except the one who took a covenant with Ar-Rahman. He therefore says, tafsir of the Quran by the Quran, what does it mean? One verse says there is no shafa'ah. A second verse says there is for a particular group of people. Then he says, what's the conclusion? Does the Quran contradict itself? He says, no. He says it means the first verse which says there's no shafa'ah refers to those who thought that their idols will give them intercession on the Day of Judgment. Therefore, what did Allama Tabatabai do? Allama Tabatabai said, whenever you approach any topic, do tafsir of the Quran by the Quran. This is the exact method that you have to employ when you come to ilm al-ghayb. Why? Because our brothers from other schools in Islam, when we tell them the prophets and the imams had ilm al-ghayb, they said this is impossible. You say to them, why is it impossible? They say because the Quran says only Allah has knowledge of the unseen. Say where? They say Surah 6 verse 59. Surah Al-An'am verse 59 says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَعِنْدَهُ مَفَاتِحُ الْغَيْبِ لَا يَعْلَمُهَا إِلَّا هُوَ. That He has the keys to the knowledge of the unseen. None has access to these except Allah. They say, therefore, this idea of yours that you say, that Rasulullah and the Imams have ilm al-ghayb, this is nonsense. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says, وَعِنْدَهُ مَفَاتِحُ الْغَيْبِ لَا يَعْلَمُهَا إِلَّا هُوَ. Then they strengthen their arguments again. They say again in the Quran, Rasulullah himself says, that I don't even have knowledge of the unseen. Say where? Say in Surah 7, verse 188. Rasulullah in Surah 7 verse 188 says what? He says, وَلَوْ كُنْتُ أَعْلَمُ الْغَيْبَ لَاسْتَكْثَرْتُ مِنَ الْخَيْرِ. If I had knowledge of the unseen, I would have made sure it benefited me. وَمَا مَسَّنِيَ. So that su would never have attacked me, would never have affected me. You therefore find that those who came forward with these verses were very strong. As in the first verse says, only Allah has the keys to this unseen. The second verse, Rasulullah is saying, وَلَوْ كُنْتُ أَعْلَمُ الْغَيْبِ لَاسْتَكْثَرْتُ مِنَ الْخَيْرِ. If I had knowledge of the unseen, like you people say I have, then I would have benefited myself with this knowledge of the unseen. We reply by saying, yes, you are right. There are two verses which clearly show that only Allah has ilm al-ghayb, and that the Prophet himself is saying, I don't have. But let's do tafsir of the Quran by the Quran. Let's look at every place where ilm al-ghayb or ilm is mentioned to see, is there an exception to this rule or no? As in, is these verses so outright that no one has ilm al-ghayb but Allah? When you do tafsir of the Quran by the Quran, what do you find? You find no. There are exceptions to this rule. Someone says, where's the exception? The first exception to the rule, that you may have a chosen creation of Allah, who He may give ilm al-ghayb to, is the famous ayah, Ayatul Kursi. As in, those who read Ayatul Kursi, what will they find? If you reflect upon Ayatul Kursi, you'll find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it clear within Ayatul Kursi that there are certain creations of mine, if I want to, and I know they can handle ilm al-ghayb, I'll give them. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. La ta'khudhuhu sinatu wa la nawm. Lahu ma fi as-samawati wa ma fi al-ard. Man dha alladhi yashfa'u 'indahu illa bi'idhnihi. Ya'lamu ma bayna aydihim wa ma khalfahum. Wa la yuhituna bi shay'in min 'ilmihi illa bima sha'. No one has access to His knowledge except who He chooses. As then from Ayatul Kursi you find the Quran is very clear that no one has access to Allah's knowledge except if Allah particularly chooses someone. As in, there may be someone of His creation who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deems fit, is able to look after ilm al-ghayb, knowledge of the unseen. We know that Allah is saying, مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يَشْفَعُ عِنْدَهُ بِإِذْنِهِ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِ يَعْلَمُ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمَا خَلْفَهُمْ وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنْ عِلْمِهِ إِلَّا بِمَا شَاءَ. That none has access to this ilm al-ghayb, except those who He chooses. Someone says, are there other verses? Yes, even further than this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it clear that He uses alim and ghayb in the same verse, and then makes a condition. Surah 72 verse 26. So look at the verses we're now using. We've put Surah 6 verse 59 and Surah 7 verse 188 on one side. Now we've put Surah 2 verse 256. And now we're putting Surah 72 verse 26 and 27. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Jinn says, Alimul ghayb, fala yudhiru ala ghaybihi ahada. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is what? Allah is the master of the unseen. He does not let this knowledge go to anyone إِلَّا مَنْ ارْتَضَى مِنْ رَسُولٍ, except those of His messengers He approves of. Meaning what? Meaning Allah again is saying here, I am the one who has knowledge of the unseen. I don't give this knowledge to anyone except of my messengers who I approve. That there's a particular group of messengers who Allah groups of. And that's why in Surah 3 verse 179 when Allah says, وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُطْلِعَكُمْ عَلَى الْغَيْبِ وَلَكِنْ يَجْتَبِي مِنْ رُسُلِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah does not let you see the world of the unseen or have knowledge of it except of His prophets whom He chooses. In other words, what do you find? You find that now there are two categories of verses. There's a category of verses which say only Allah has knowledge of the unseen, and the Prophet Muhammad saying, if I had knowledge of the unseen, I would have benefited myself. But then there's another category of verses where Allah says, no, there's a group of people I will give ilm al-ghayb. A question arises here from the academic world. Is there a contradiction, a tanaqud in the Quran here? Because there's one group of verses which is saying only Allah has ilm al-ghayb. There's another group of verses where Allah is saying, only I have ilm al-ghayb, and I give it to certain people. Is there a contradiction in the Quran? No, there isn't. If there isn't, then what is the meaning of the first category? Well, when the Quran said, عَنْدَهُ مَفَاتِحُ الْغَيْبِ لَا يَعْلَمُهَا إِلَّا هُ, it is self-explanatory. The keys to ilm al-ghayb are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one denies that. If I now have the keys to a whole building, you coming and renting off me to rent, you need to pick up the keys from me, isn't it? The keys are in my hands. They're not in the hands of anyone else. But if I decide to give the key to someone, then it's up to me who I give the key to, isn't it? Likewise, the second verse, Surah 7 verse 188, when Rasulullah said, وَلَوْ كُنْتَ أَعْلَمُ الْغَيْبَ لَاسْتَكْثَرْتُ مِنَ الْخَيْرِ. What did the Prophet mean? If I had knowledge of the unseen, I would have benefited from myself. Because the people used to come to Rasulullah, they used to say to him, Ya Rasulullah, the tomatoes and cucumbers in Medina, are their prices going to go up or are they going to go down? Say, sorry? Say, the tomatoes, you know, the tamata and khiyar, the tomato and cucumber in Medina, is it going to go up the price or is it going to go down? Rasulullah replied to them by saying, وَلَوْ كُنْتَ أَعْلَمُ الْغَيْبِ لَاسْتَكْثَرْتُ مِنَ الْخَيْرِ. If it was that type of knowledge of the unseen that I had, I would have benefited for myself. I don't receive ilm al-ghayb of this type, tomatoes and cucumbers. I'm a prophet who's been sent to guide mankind, to perfect the morals of mankind, to bring equality in the life of the human being. When you come and ask me the tomato and the cucumber, is it going up or is it staying down? I reply to you by saying, وَلَوْ كُنْتُ أَعْلَمُ الْغَيْبِ. That ghayb, if I had that ghayb, I would have benefited myself. But that type of ghayb I don't have. Therefore, those who came and said that the Quran said that knowledge of the unseen is only with Allah, no. Absolute, independent knowledge of the unseen is only with Allah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He wants to, He can give this ilm al-ghayb away. That's why I remember there's a mathematical equation on this. They call it the vertical and the horizontal. Horizontal is across, yes? If I'm not mistaken. Horizontal is across and the vertical is down. If I say Allah, Muhammad, Ali, Fatima, Hassan and Hussein as horizontal ilm al-ghayb, this is wrong. Because nobody's knowledge of the unseen comes near Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, horizontal ilm al-ghayb, where the Allah and the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt are all the same. No. Vertical ilm al-ghayb, yes. That knowledge of the unseen begins with Allah, then Allah gives it to His chosen creation. And that's why whenever you want to understand ilm al-ghayb, it is wrong to assume that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has horizontal ilm al-ghayb with Ahlul Bayt. Why? Because then there's no difference between the creation and the creator. They become exactly the same in their ilm. But when we say what? When we are talking of the vertical ilm al-ghayb, Allah is at the top. عِنْدَهُ مَفَاتِحُ الْغَيْبِ. But who He gives this miftah to is up to Him. Who He gives the key to is up to Him. Allah may give the key to who He wants. And that's why when you look in the Quran, subhanallah, in the Quran, there are many examples of Allah giving ilm al-ghayb to certain creations of His. As in within the Quran, Allah may either give ilm al-ghayb to a creation through revelation. Allah may give ilm al-ghayb through a dream. Allah may give ilm al-ghayb through intense knowledge and an increase of knowledge. If you look within the Quran, it's not unusual for a creation of Allah to be given ilm al-ghayb. For example, within the Quran, you look in Surah 3 verse 48 and 49. Nabi Isa alayhi salam, amongst his qualities was that he used to have knowledge of the unseen relative to those who had knowledge of the seen. Someone says, what do you mean? Nabi Isa, if he walks past your house, he can tell what's in your kitchen. He can tell what's in your bathroom. He can tell what's in your bedroom. If now I walk past someone's house, all I see in front of me is what? I see a brick wall, for example. I can't tell what's behind the brick wall. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of the gifts He gave, of the ilm al-ghayb He gave to Nabi Isa, for example. The Quran says that Nabi Isa says, وَأُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِمَا تَأْكُلُونَ وَمَا تَدَّخِرُونَ فِي بُيُوتِكُمْ. Nabi Isa in the Quran says, I can tell you what you eat and what you store in your houses. In the Quran, Allah gave Nabi Isa partial ilm al-ghayb. that if Nabi Isa walked past the house, he could tell what you're eating in the house, and he could tell exactly what's stored in the house. In the Quran, in Surah 3 verse 48, Nabi Isa says, أُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِمَا تَأْكُلُونَ وَمَا تَدَّخِرُونَ فِي بُيُوتِكُمْ. That's number one. Number two, Nabi Ibrahim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Nabi Ibrahim ilm al-ghayb. Someone says, where? In the Quran, Allah gave Nabi Ibrahim ilm al-ghayb through a dream. That when Nabi Ibrahim says in the Quran, when he's speaking to his son Ismail, Nabi Ibrahim says, قَالَ يَا بُنَيَّ إِنِّي أَرَى فِي الْمَنَامِ أَنِّي أَذْبَحُكَ فَانْظُرْ مَاذَا تَرَى. Oh my son, I see in my dream. Notice where the ilm al-ghayb is given here. The knowledge of an event before the event happens. The knowledge of the unseen. I see in my dream that I have to sacrifice you. What's your opinion? He replied, قال يا أبتي افعل ما تؤمر ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصابرين. Oh Allah, do what you've been commanded to do. You will see me as one of the patient ones. Nabi Ibrahim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on a number of occasions showed him the dream. Nabi Ibrahim at the beginning wasn't sure about the dream. So the day is called the Yom of the Tarwiyah. Then he saw the dream again. He was now certain that it was a message. So it was called Yom Arafah. That's why in Hajj, when we go on the day of Arafah, it is called the day of Arafah because it's the day Ibrahim knew. The day Ibrahim was certain, it was called the day of Arafah. Nabi Ibrahim knew that day, that dream had a particular knowledge about something that would happen in the future. Hence when the Quran said what? When he came forward and said, قَالَ يَا بُنَيَّ إِنِّي أَرَى فِي الْمَنَامِ أَنِّي أَذْبَحُكَ, he knew that this was a particular knowledge of the unseen. So you had Nabi Isa was given ilm al-ghayb. Nabi Ibrahim was given ilm al-ghayb. You had, for example, another type of ilm al-ghayb. The ilm al-ghayb that was given to who? That was given to someone who was not a prophet of God, but was a wasi of a prophet of God. Asif bin Barkhiya was the wasi of Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam. Prophet Sulaiman sitting in his great kingdom, while he's sitting in his kingdom, he knew that he ruled one part of the world, and the queen of Sheba ruled the other part of the world, Balqis in the Quran. Yes? He said to those who surrounded him, he had written a letter to the queen of Sheba. The queen of Sheba replied back to him. And what happened was, Nabi Sulaiman at this moment recognized that I want this queen of Sheba to come towards the path of Allah. She's going to come and visit me. But by the time she visits me, I want her throne to be in front of me now. Nabi Sulaiman at that moment, what did he say? Nabi Sulaiman at that moment, he came forward and said, which of you can bring me the queen of Sheba's throne without even the blinking of the eye? You see, the queen of Sheba's throne, where was it? It was on the other side of the world. It's like me asking one of you now in the hall, who can bring me my cousin's chair, which is in their bedroom in Sydney, Australia, right now? Everyone will turn around to me and say, what do you mean, Sayyid Ammar? I have to DHL and Korea and FedEx and half of these things, and it may reach you in 6 months, inshallah. You find the Quran, what did the Quran say? The Quran said that when Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam said, who will bring me the queen of Sheba's throne? You had one of the people, one of the jinn said, I will bring. Then you had Asif bin Barkhiya saying, I will bring you a throne. Without even the blinking of the eye, that throne was right in front of who? In front of Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam. That throne was in front of Nabi Sulaiman. This Asif bin Barkhiya, when he had all of this knowledge to bring this, what was it? It was knowledge of that which is unseen. That Allah had allowed him to have the knowledge of that which was not seen. Hence the Quran, when it says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu in tattaqullaha yaj'al lakum furqanan. O you who believe, have taqwa of Allah. Allah will give you furqan. What is furqan? It means, O you who believe, those of you who have taqwa, I'll let you remove the veils between yourself and me. I'll allow you to bring that which can't come. This verse is vital. Surah 8 verse 29 says what? Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu in tattaqullaha yaj'al lakum furqanan. Furqan means that which divides right and wrong. It's a particular ability to perceive. Nabi Sulaiman said what? Who can bring me the queen of Sheba's throne? The narrations mention that that throne came in front. And that's why the Quran, when it described this Asif bin Barkhiya, what did it say? It said Asif bin Barkhiya had ilm min al-kitab. He had knowledge from the book. Imagine if someone who has knowledge from the book, he can bring the Queen of Sheba's throne. How about the one who has ilmul kitab? How about the one who's placed alongside the Quran? That's why you find Rasulullah in this tradition says, Asif bin Barkhiyah had knowledge, and the prophets have knowledge, and of the 73 portions of Allah's knowledge, He gave 72 to me and Ali ibn Abi Talib. Therefore, what do you find? Allahumma salli ala. Therefore, what do you find? Therefore, what do you find on this area? You find very clearly that number one, Allah has knowledge of the unseen. Number two, Allah gives His knowledge to whom He chooses. Number three, those who are given His knowledge are not only prophets. They may be a representative of a prophet. Number four, and of the utmost importance, what is the attribute for someone who Allah gives ilm al-ghayb to? As in, for Allah to choose someone to give knowledge of the unseen to, what is the attribute that person must have? As in, there are many people who ask that when Allah gives Amir al-Mu'mineen ilm al-ghayb, or He gives Imam al-Hussein ilm al-ghayb, what attribute did they need to have for Allah to give them knowledge of an event before the event happens? You find the main attribute is that Allah wanted to know that they had the patience to bear that knowledge which they carried. What do we mean? The best example in the Quran of when Allah teaches us about the meaning of ilm al-ghayb is in the story when Khidr taught Musa about knowledge. Truly, that story of the interaction between Khidr and Musa is a story which teaches you about how there's some knowledge only a few people can carry in life. As in, Nabi Musa alayhi salam for a moment believed that he had more knowledge than everyone who surrounded him. As soon as he believed this, the narrations mention Jibreel came to him and said to him, Musa, go out and search for someone who has more knowledge than you. Nabi Musa, as soon as he heard this, he shows us something quite beautiful. Nabi Musa, as soon as he heard someone has more knowledge than him, what did he do? He knew the famous phrase, seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. As the Nabi Musa could have easily turned around and said, Ya Allah, I am Prophet Musa. I am your spokesman. I am the most learned. I defeated Pharaoh. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as soon as He told Musa, there's someone with more knowledge than you, Nabi Musa straight away got up. He said, where is this person? I will not stop until I find this person. When he met Prophet Khidr, you find the most stunning interaction about knowledge and the responsibility of the carrier of knowledge. Because when he met Prophet Khidr, you can imagine Prophet Khidr alayhi salam was just sitting on the side. Nabi Musa came to him and he said, I want to learn under you. Prophet Khidr looked at him, he said, you don't have the patience to bear what I know. He said to him, sorry? He said, you don't have the patience to bear what I know. He said, but you haven't tried me. I promise I'll be patient enough to bear whatever it is. He said, no, you don't have the patience. He said, no, I will have the patience, please. So he said to him, okay, very well. You're going to come on a journey with me. And when you come with me on this journey, you do not question anything in the whole journey. You come with me on this journey, and you don't question anything. Are you ready? He said, yes, of course. He said, very well, let's go. When he came with him on this journey, the first thing Nabi Khidr did was what? He saw this boat which was parked in a certain area. Nabi Khidr came and he made a hole in the boat. Nabi Musa at this moment said to him, hold on, what is it that you're doing? Why did you just make a hole in this boat? Don't you think it belongs to someone? He said to him, didn't I tell you don't have the patience to bear this knowledge? Nabi Musa looked at him and he said to him, very well, I'm sorry. Forgive me, I will not speak again. He said, okay, come with me. The next thing Nabi Khidr did, there was a young boy, he slaughtered him. Nabi Musa looked, he said, why did you just kill this innocent young boy? He said to him, didn't I tell you you don't have the patience to bear the knowledge I have? Nabi Musa at this moment says, I'm sorry, I promise I will not interfere anymore. That's it. The next time, Nabi Khidr, what did he do? He repaired a wall without taking any fee for the repair. Nabi Musa at this moment asked Prophet Khidr, explain to me the meaning of what's happened. Prophet Khidr now said to him, سَأُنَبِّئُكَ بِتَأْوِيلٍ مَا لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ عَلَيْهِ صَبْرًا. I will now give you the interpretation of that knowledge which you had no patience to bear. Okay, what is that knowledge? He said, as for the hole in the boat belonged to a poor family. I made a hole in it because the king comes round the boat. And when the king comes round to the boats, he normally takes them. I made a hole that was big enough so the king doesn't take it, but was small enough so that the family can repair it. He said to him, very well, I understand. He said to him, how about killing the young boy? He said the young boy was a menace for his family and a cause of disruption for them in their life. I killed the young boy. They would not know that he would cause disruption for them in their life. I've killed him, but Allah will replace him with a daughter who from her line 70 of his prophets will be born. Sometimes in our life we lose a child, we're thinking why? We don't know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what He knew was going to affect us in the long run. That sometimes you say, why is it you took the child from me? Sometimes I took the child because you don't know how far you would have left me had that child stayed in your life. What I give with mercy, and what I take with mercy. Then number 3, why did you repair the wall? He said, behind the wall belongs treasure to 2 orphans. I repaired the wall because the king would have taken the treasure. Now that I've repaired it, that treasure remains for those 2 orphans, and their father was a good man. He then said to him, Musa, come with me, come with me. Nabi Musa came with him. When he said to him, Musa, come with me, he said, Musa, come and look at the stream of water in front of us. He came with him, he looked at the stream of water. He said to him, Musa, do you see the stream of water? He said, yes. He said, Musa, do you see the dove? Do you see the bird that flies above the stream of the water? He said, yes. He said, that seagull, do you see it? He said, yes. He said, do you see the seagull as it flies into the water? He said, yes. He said, do you see the seagull as it gets closer? He said, yes. He said, do you see the seagull within the water now? He said, yes. He said, do you see the seagull as it leaves the water? He said, yes. He said, do you see the seagull as it flies in the air? He said, yes. He said, do you see the drops of water from the beak of the seagull? He said, yes. He said, the drops of water from the beak of the seagull in ratio to the stream is our knowledge in ratio to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are certain things you know which I don't. And there are other things which I know but which you don't. But above everyone with knowledge is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You came to see me, why? Because there is a certain form of knowledge Allah wants to give you. But He can only give you if you have the patience to bear that knowledge. 3 times in the story He tells him, but do you have the patience to bear what I'm going to give you? Why? Because ilm al-ghayb cannot just be given to anyone. Ilm al-ghayb has to be given to who? To a particular person who can carry the weight of that knowledge, isn't it? As in, imagine if me and you today were told on the night of the 19th in Masjid al-Kufa, on the night of the 19th in Masjid al-Kufa, we were going to be struck. Wallah, half of us would book our holidays as far away from Masjid al-Kufa as possible. Why? Because we'd look at it and what would we say? So there's no way I want to get killed. Ya Allah, now that you told me I'm getting killed, I want to stay away from my death as much as I can, isn't it? Because we don't have the patience to bear that knowledge. When Allah gives knowledge of the unseen to a chosen creation, it's to a creation who is able to handle that patience. And that's why when you look at Amir al-Mu'mineen, even amongst his companions, when Amir al-Mu'mineen would transfer a piece of knowledge of the unseen, he wouldn't give it to all of his companions, no. He'd give that ilm to certain companions who had the sabr to look after that knowledge, number 1. Number 2, to those companions who he knew felt that them dying was little in comparison to Islam surviving. This is a vital point. When a person is given ilm al-ghayb, do you know what his psychology is? Even if I die, for everyone they would run away, but for me, my death, if it keeps Islam alive, let Islam live. When Allah gives an imam ilm al-ghayb, what does this mean? It means that Allah is saying that imam has a psychology about them. What is it? That imam, what's their psychology? Their psychology is that if they were to die, as long as the religion lives, that's the main thing. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, what would he do? Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, to certain companions of his, he would tell them about their death. Why? because he knew that these companions wouldn't be scared of their death. No. Rather, the psyche of these companions was the psyche of a shaheed. That, Ya Allah, I look forward to my death as long as the religion of Islam remains alive. For example, who? Maytham al-Tammar. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen came to Maytham al-Tammar. He said to him, Maytham, are you ready one day to die in my path? Maytham said to him, what do you mean? He said, are you ready one day when the accursed, son of the accursed, Ibn Ziyad, when he comes to you and he says, curse Ali ibn Abi Talib, would you curse me? He said, I would never curse Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ali ibn Abi Talib is my master. I would never dissociate from my master. He said to him, Maytham, very well, then I will tell you exactly where you will die. When Imam looks at Maytham and says to him, I will tell you where you will die. You think the Imam would just give this to anyone? No. Imam knows Maytham will not look at death as the end. He'll look at it as a cause for the survival of the religion of Islam. So Imam told Maytham, he said, Maytham, you see the trees near the house of Amr ibn Hurayth? He said, yes. He said, that tree over there is where you will die. Look at the response of Maytham. Look at the response. Maytham would go and water the tree every day. Do you know when Khidr said to Musa, you don't have the patience? Musa recognized, for me to be told about an event, before the event happens, the most important criteria is sabr. And then number two is what? That I believe my life is worth less than the religion of Islam. The religion of Islam lives longer than me. Maytham al-Tammar every day would go and water the tree. Amr ibn Hurayth looked at Maytham. Maytham said to him, Amr, one day when I'm your neighbor, please don't forget me. Please look after me. Amr ibn Hurayth used to say, I was wondering, none of the houses near us are on sale. Maytham keeps saying to me, when I'm your neighbor, remember me. Yet none of the houses are on sale. This same Maytham al-Tammar, walking one day, sees Habib ibn Madahir. You see that particular chain, those categories of people, who the Quran says what? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. What does it say? In tattaqullah, what will happen? Yaj'al lakum furqanan. When you have taqwa of Allah, there is an open discerning between right and wrong. Maytham looks at Habib ibn Madahir. He says to him, oh Habib, it's as if I see a man who will die in the way of the grandson of Rasulullah. And it's as if I see a man who will never let go of the grandson of Rasulullah. Habib looked at Maytham and he said to him, oh Maytham, it's as if I see a man who sells dates and who will be crucified on a tree, singing the praises of his master Amir al-Mu'mineen. Then when the people heard Maytham and Habib talking, you know what the people said? Maytham and Habib are crazy. These people talking about what's going to happen later about their deaths. Rushayd al-Hajari walked past. When Rushayd al-Hajari walked past, he said, when the people came to them, they said, Rushayd, Maytham and Habib are crazy. He said, why? He said, Maytham and Habib are talking about when they're going to die and how they're going to die, as if they know. Rushayd said, what did they say? He said, Maytham said to Habib, it's as if I see you being loyal to the grandson of Rasulullah. And Habib said to Maytham, it's as if I see you selling dates and then being crucified. Then Rushayd said, but they forgot to tell you that the man who takes the head of Habib ibn Madahir, they will give him 100 dinar for carrying the head of Habib later in Kufa. The people said, we thought those two were crazy. It turned out you're with them in the craziness as well. Rushayd al-Hajari, Habib ibn Madahir, Maytham al-Tammar, all of these companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Allah gave them foresight about their deaths. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saw what? These people had the ultimate consciousness of Allah's presence in their life. And the same Allah who said, عَالِمُ الْغَيْبِ فَلَا يُظْهِرُ عَلَى غَيْبِهِ أَحَدًا إِلَّا مَنْ ارْتَضَى مِنْ رَسُولٍ. Except of those messengers, He'll give them knowledge of the unseen. That's why that Maytham would walk every day to that tree, until when Ibn Ziyad caught him. Ibn Ziyad caught him and said to him, where is your master Ali ibn Abi Talib now to look after you? He looked at him and he said, my master Ali ibn Abi Talib told me that I'll die, and I'll die on that tree. And I'll die and I'll be praising him on that tree. Ibn Ziyad looked at him and he said, very well, then we won't kill you. We'll just keep you on that tree. Imagine they've roped Maytham to that tree in Kufa. May Allah give you all the ziyarah of Maytham al-Tammar. That tree in Kufa, they tied him to that tree. And from that tree he would say, oh people, do you know who my master is? My master is Imam al-Muttaqeen, Sayyid al-Wasiyyin, Asadullah al-Ghalib, Madhar al-Ajaib. And he would continue and continue and continue until Ibn Ziyad came and ordered that Maytham is crucified on that tree. Imagine when Maytham al-Tammar was given that knowledge. Why was he given that knowledge? As in, why would Ali ibn Abi Talib tell Maytham where he's going to die? It's because Ali ibn Abi Talib knew Maytham would not abuse it, number one. And that Ali ibn Abi Talib knew, number two, what? That Maytham al-Tammar saw that his life is worth less than the religion of Islam. That the religion of Islam, if it's going to survive through people praising Amir al-Mu'mineen, then so be it. Therefore, what do you find? You find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that ilm al-ghayb, that knowledge of the unseen, He would give to some of His chosen creation. Amongst them, Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen. How would the knowledge of the unseen come to him? Firstly, Rasulullah would himself say, Ana madinatul ilm wa aliyun babuha. I am the city of knowledge, and Ali is its gate. Meaning that Rasulullah, from the knowledge he has, would give some of that knowledge to Amir al-Mu'mineen. But he knew that Ali ibn Abi Talib, when I've given him this knowledge, Ali ibn Abi Talib would not abuse this knowledge. No. Rather, Ali ibn Abi Talib would have the patience to bear this knowledge, would be able to look after it. That's why you find Amir al-Mu'mineen, there are certain instances where clearly he displays a knowledge of the unseen which those around him do not have. I remember in the Battle of Siffin, Imam Ali and Malik al-Ashtar are next to each other. While they're next to each other, Malik al-Ashtar turns around to Imam Ali and he says to him, I've killed the same number as you've killed. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen looks at him and he says to him, how do you know? He said, because whenever you kill anyone, you say Allahu Akbar. And I've been counting, and we're both on exactly the same number. Ali ibn Abi Talib gives him a quite stupendous reply. He says to him, Oh Malik, there is a difference between who I kill and who you kill. He said to him, what do you mean? He said, you kill anyone who comes in the way of war. I can see 7 generations down their line. If there's a good human being, I will not kill that person because of what's in his lineage. You find therefore Ali ibn Abi Talib at Siffin highlighting that I have this knowledge of the unseen, I have the knowledge which others around me do not have. When Allah says, وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنْ عِلْمِهِ, when Allah says, عَالِمُ الْغَيْبِ فَلَا يُظْهِرُ عَلَى غَيْبِهِ أَحَدًا إِلَّا مَنْ ارْتَضَى مِنْ رَسُولٍ, I'm giving you an indication that there are certain chosen personalities who've been given. Even after Nahrawan, before Nahrawan, Kumail narrates, Kumail says, we were walking past the house. When we were walking past this house, he says, we heard someone recite the most beautiful Quran. When we heard the person recite the most beautiful Quran, Kumail said, I looked at Imam Ali. I said to him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, look how beautiful this person recites the Quran. I'm sure the Quran praised him, that he's one of those who recites the Quran in the day and night. Imam looked at Kumail, he said to him, Oh Kumail, one day I'll remind you about this person. Years later in the battle of Nahrawan, after Siffin, the final battle Imam Ali fought against the Khawarij, that next day you would find Kumail was with him. The battle finished. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen looked at Kumail. He said to him, Kumail, you see that head over there, that soldier who's on the ground? Kumail said, yes, I do. He said, do you remember one day we were walking in Kufa? And you said to me, oh Ali, look how great the man is who recites the Quran. He said, yes, I remember. He said, that same man you were praising has come to Nahrawan to fight me. What's the point of him having read the whole Quran if he doesn't know my position within the Quran? He read the Quran day and night, yet he never knew where Ali ibn Abi Talib figures within the Holy Quran. And that's why you find Amir al-Mu'mineen, on that note, it was no surprise that he knew that final morning when he was going towards Masjid al-Kufa. On a night like this, truly, when Jibreel said, تَهَدَّمَتْ وَاللَّهِ أَرْكَانَ الْهُدَى, that on a night like this, truly, the pillars of the religion have been broken. قُتِلَ عَلِيُّ الْمُرْتَضَى, Ali al-Murtada has been killed. Who killed him? قَتَلَهُ أَشْقَى الْأَشْقِيَا, the worst of the worst killed him. And you know what the worst thing in the killing of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib is? Number one, Ibn Muljam was an orphan. Do you know who looked after the orphan when he was young? Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. When Ibn Muljam was young and he was an orphan, it was Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib who'd go and look after him. If he saw him thirsty, he'd give him water. If he needed food, he'd give him food. And you know, you'd think Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib's behavior would change after this Ibn Muljam has struck him. No. After Ibn Muljam struck him, the narrations mention that Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib turned around to Imam al-Hassan and said, give him water. Maybe he's in a state of fear. I don't like to see a human thirsty in a state of fear. And also when they tied him, he said, remove the rope from Ibn Muljam's hands. For the man is in a state of shock. Do not tie his hands in that way. In other words, you found that this man, this exemplary nature, he knew that night, he knew it was the final night. Even Sayyidah Zainab, may Allah give patience to Imam Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. On a night like this, that even you find the narrations, what do they mention? Sayyidah Zainab says, my father on a night like this, I could tell that he knew it was his final night. They said to her, Zainab, how did you know? She said that night I bought him his iftar, or I bought him the food before he started his prayers. She said, when I bought him his iftar that night, I bought him salt, and I bought him bread, and I bought him yogurt. And he looked at me and he said to me, oh Zainab, when have you known me to have such a grand meal? Brothers and sisters, salt, yogurt and bread is a grand meal. He looked at her and he said, Zainab, I prefer to return to my Lord with my stomach empty. I prefer to return to my Lord in this way. And then she looked at him and he said to her, Zainab, it's as if last night in my dream, I saw myself returning back to Rasulullah, back to Fatima al-Zahra. It's as if Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen wanted to return back towards his beloved Rasulullah, his beloved Fatima al-Zahra. Even that night, Sayyidah Zainab says, I've seen my father defeat the strongest warriors, but I've never seen him in this situation. He looked like he was in reflection, constant thought. And that's why Sayyidah Zainab hurried to Imam al-Hassan. She said to him, oh my brother Hassan, I beg you, my father, I've never seen him like this. Imam al-Hassan came to his father, he sat with his father. He said to him, Father, what is it? He said, my son Hassan, tonight is the night. Tonight is the night that I return back to Fatima al-Zahra. Tonight is the night that I return back to Rasulullah. Tonight is the night that I return back to my Lord. He said, I saw Jibreel rubbing a stone and the dust went on Mecca, and the dust went on Medina, and the dust went on Kufa. Then when he was about to leave, he told Imam al-Hassan, just wait a little. I want you to console Zainab and Kulthum. It's as if Imam Ali, his mind was with Zainab and Kulthum. I tell him, oh Ali, if your mind was with Zainab and Kulthum, then I wish you had come to Karbala and see Zainab and Kulthum. The narrations, what do they mention? They mention that the Imam began his prayer. Then when he went on from his prayer, he went on to his ruku'. Then when he went on from his ruku' and to his sujood, may Allah give you sabr. Ibn Muljam came from the back and he struck the head of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib while he was in his sujood. Imam al-Hassan came towards his father's body. Imam al-Hussein came towards his father's head. When Imam al-Hussein came to his father's head, he lifted the head of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib turned around and he said, oh Hussein, oh Hussein, oh Hussein, is that you? He said to him, yes my father, it's me. He said to him, oh Hussein, you lift my head now, whereas on the 10th of Muharram, who will lift the head of Abu Abdullah when he lies on the ground? I tell him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, if you were in Karbala, what would you do when you see Shimmer sitting on the chest of Abu Abdullah? The narrations say that when Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein lifted him, he was limping as he left the mosque. As you know, the injury cut deep into his head. He was limping and limping. Then he came towards the house. As he was getting nearer to the house, he turned round towards Imam al-Hassan. He said, oh my son Hassan, let me stand straight and walk towards the house. Imam al-Hassan looked at him, he said, why? He said, because I see your sister Zainab at the door. And I can't bear to allow Zainab to be in a state of shock. I say to him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, if you couldn't bear to see Zainab in pain, then I wondered what you would have felt when you saw Zainab seeing shimmer on the chest of Hussein. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. Raise your hands, brothers and sisters, raise your hands. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to raise us with Muhammad and Al Muhammad, to allow us to receive the intercession of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen. Allow us the ziyarah of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen in the land of Najaf. Allow us to be by the grave of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen this time next year. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, Allahumma arham tilka al-khudud allati taqallabat ala dharih Abi Abdullah. We say, Ya Allah, allow our cheeks to rub themselves on the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all our brothers around the Islamic world. Raise your hands for your brothers, especially around the Islamic world. Our brothers who are less fortunate on a night like this, our brothers in Syria and our brothers in Burma, our brothers in Pakistan, our brothers in Iraq, and all our brothers around the world. Even our non-Muslim brethren who face poverty in the world today, Ya Allah, protect them. Remove the poverty from them in the name of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on a night like this with a Surah Al-Fatiha, but before it the loudest of your salawat. Bismillah.